You can be reminded of Krishna's ankle bells. Yeah. That's what they said, more or less. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari. Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yamunatira Vanachari. Yamunatira Vanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivajakacha Astotra to the Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivajakacha Astotra to the Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktavinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 On this 15th day of January 2024 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in chapter 4, Transcendental Knowledge, text 26. Those who were here last night, I'm pretty sure that's the verse. And on page 213. Okay. Shotradinindriyani Anye Samyamagnishu Jumfati Shabdadin Vishayan Anya Indriyagnishu Jumfati Shotradinindriyanyanye Sangyamagnishu Juvati Shabdadin Vishayananya Indriyagnishu Juvati Shotradin Indriyanyanye Sangyamagnishu Juvati Shabdadin Vishayananya Indriyagnishu Juvati Shotradin Indriyanyanye Sangyamagnishu Juvati Shabdadin Vishayananya Indriyagnishu Juvati. Go ahead, Krishna. Either way. Shotradin Indriyanyanye Samyamagnishu Juvati Shabdadin Vishayananya Indriyagnishu Juvati. Go ahead, Jason. Shotradin Indriyanyanye Sangyamagnishu Juvati Shabdadin Vishayananya Indriyagnishu Juvati. Chad. Shotradin Indriyanyanye Sangyamagnishu Juvati Shabdadin Vishayananya Indriyagnishu Juvati. Nelson. Shotradin Indriyanyanye Sangyamagnishu Juvati Shabdadin Vishayananya Indriyagnishu Juvati. You want to try? You don't have to. Yeah, it's a hard one, that first word. Sound it out. Not bad. Shotradin Indriyanyanye Sangyamagnishu Juvati Shabdadin Vishayananya Indriyagnishu Juvati. Good effort. Okay. Shotra adini, such as the hearing process. Indriyani, senses. Anye, others. Sangyama, of restraint. Agnishu, in the fires. Juvati, offer. Shabda adin, sound vibration, etc. Vishayan, objects of sense gratification. Anye, others. Indriya, of the sense organs. Agnishu, in the fires. Juvati, they sacrifice. So these are all different kinds of sacrifices now he's talking about in the context. We'll get to that. Translation. Now there's been a few little adjustments here, so if I read something wrong, it's not wrong. Some, the unadulterated brahmacharis, sacrifice the hearing process and other senses in the fire of mental control. And others, the regulated householders, sacrifice the objects of the senses in the fire of the senses. Purport. The members of the four divisions, oh sorry, all right, let me read that again because I forgot to turn this on. Some, the unadulterated brahmacharis, sacrifice the hearing process and other senses in the fire of mental control. And others, the regulated householders, sacrifice the objects of the senses in the fire of the senses. Purport. The members of the four divisions of human life, namely the brahmacharis, the grahastas, the vanaprasthas, and the sannyasis, are all meant to become perfect yogis or transcendentalists. Since human life is not meant for our enjoying sense gratification like the animals, the four orders of human life are so arranged that one may become perfect in spiritual life. The brahmacharis, or students under the care of a bona fide spiritual master, control the mind by abstaining from sense gratification. A brahmachari hears only words concerning Krishna consciousness. Hearing is the basic principle for understanding. And therefore the pure brahmachari engages fully in Harer Namanukirtanam, chanting and hearing the glories of the Lord. He restrains himself from the vibrations of material sounds, and his hearing is engaged in the transcendental sound vibration of Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Similarly, the householders who have some license for sense gratification perform such acts with great restraint. Sex life, intoxication, and meat eating are general tendencies of human society. But a regulated householder does not indulge in unrestricted sex life and other sense gratification. Marriage on the principles of religious life is therefore current in all civilized human society, because that is the way for restricted sex life. This restricted, unattached sex life is also a kind of yajna or sacrifice, because the restricted householder sacrifices his general tendency towards sense gratification for higher transcendental life. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmidatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So, now Krishna is speaking about different kinds of sacrifice. I think this has been clear all the way back from chapter 3, when a critical verse was spoken in text 9, where Krishna says, Yagyartart kamanon yatra loko yam karma bandhana tadartam kamakonteya mukta sangha samachara, which means that all one's activities should be done in the mood of sacrifice or yajna. And he makes the point there that the very word yajna, which means sacrifice, is also a name for Vishnu. It's that close. In other words, to understand God, you have to sacrifice our tendency. We have to sacrifice a tendency to just let the senses run riot or engage in unlimited sense gratification. That's the basic price you have to pay. And Prabhupada makes it very clear in describing when we get to chapter 6. 6 is about the bona fide yoga system, Ashtanga yoga. Ashtanga means 8 limbs. And it's the classic, yama and niyama. It begins, yama means control. What you don't do. And niyama is what you do. So there are these moral principles, some of which are restraint and some of which are prescription. So that's the yoga. Sit like this. He gives a summary of it. In a certain quiet place, go to, be alone. It's practically impossible for us to even contemplate doing it. Although, you may know if you read Radhanath Swami's biography, how he came to Krishna consciousness, he did it. He was very determined. He just to get the whole story of how he got into India without a visa. This is amazing. And he went up to the Himalayas and he was meditating and everything like that. But he eventually came down from the Himalayas and he went to Vrindavan. And there he ran into the devotees. He met Srila Prabhupada, and it's a wonderful story. So, but it's very, very rare to really be able to seriously contemplate doing what Krishna describes in the 6th chapter, and that's just an outline. To be alone perform severe austerities. The classic is that when it's hot summer, in India, I said, oh, it's very hot now. Then let me go down and sit in the desert and build some fires around me. I'll sit there and meditate. Really get some benefit. Oh, it's winter. It's freezing, like maybe 10 degrees out. oh, let me go to the Ganges. Ganges up in the Himalayas. It starts up there. It's barely, melted ice. I'll dive in and I'll swim in there and I'll meditate in the water. Who can do that? Who can hardly take a cold shower? So, and the wonderful thing is, it's not necessary for us to do that. Yes, it's necessary to accept certain restraints and certain sacrifices. The very chanting of the holy name. It's like we went on that wonderful procession. I hadn't been on. Well, I did get to go to the midnight New Year's Eve now, so that was ecstatic. But this was also ecstatic, just to go out, especially with Jagannath, and it was warm enough. There were people on the boardwalk, So that's the yajna. That's a yajna. It was so much fun. You can say that's a yajna. That's the point. Is that if you just give your time and your energy toward dancing and chanting and hearing, then you automatically evolve spiritually. It's such a powerful process. But still, in spite of all that, there are still austerities to perform in Bhakti Yoga. So that spiritual energy does not become diverted back into material sense gratification. That's a danger, because you're having so much fun in Krishna consciousness. Well, let's have other kind of fun from your old conditioning. So we need to have the boundaries, and that's why we have the 4 regs, and we have the spiritual master and association and all these different things. So here he's giving a little outline of different sacrifices. The unadulterated brahmachari, serious brahmachari, sacrifice the hearing process and other senses in the fire of mental control. It's not that the hearing process is not one of the senses. Anyway, that was a mistake in the editing. It's going to be fixed. So the most important one is the one that's mentioned here, the hearing process. We're studying Prahlad Maharaj in the morning, his pastimes and his teachings. He's going to have a whole section of teachings to his friends, and also his prayers. There's all kinds of wonderful instruction in there. So one of the instructions he gives his father has the longest purport in the whole Bhagavatam attached to it. And what it is the 9 process of devotional service. Beginning with Shravanam, hearing. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Satyam, Atmanivedanam. There's also a little bit of progression there. It all begins with hearing. It all begins with hearing. Now, reading is also a kind of hearing. It's better to hear out loud and to discuss, but you can read silently, and it's very, very purifying. We all know that. So that's the first thing. And if one is fortunate enough to hear pure vibrations, especially from a pure soul, and even though it's on the page, the one thing about, that you read Prabhupada's purports, there's no doubt, that it could be this way, it could be that way, no. It's always 100%, because he's getting from, I mentioned this last night, or I think on Sunday night, the parampara, that Prabhupada is coming in this line, and he himself is a realized soul, and so when he speaks or when he writes, that faith, that realization is coming through. It's coming through the words. It's not written by some, Sanskrit scholar or something, Could be this way, could be that way, no. Prabhupada is writing from a point of realization, and so we're also, benefiting from that. There's one verse that's repeated, it might be 3 times, at least twice in the Bhagavatam. When you find a verse that's repeated, it's an important verse. There's another one, I won't share this with you, 5 times in the Bhagavatam. A very amazing verse. I'll give that tomorrow night. So tonight, but the idea of association, the importance of it. Tulayama lavenapi nasvargam napunarbhavam bhagavat sangi sangasya martyan nam kimutashisha. Tulayami means to equate. You cannot equate these things with a moment's association with an associate of the Lord. Bhagavat sangi. A sangi is someone who's associating. Sangha is the association in Sanskrit. So Bhagavat sangi sangasya means association with an associate of God. So that's the whole idea. The pure devotees, they're communing with Krishna at every moment. They're getting inspired what to say and how to act and what to do. And so Prabhupada was such a Bhagavat sangi. And those who had association, what to speak of moments, who had, more than moments, who had days, and they really were able to revel in Prabhupada's association. So those, the early devotees, they were especially fortunate in that. But Prabhupada made the point, because I remember, there was such a traumatic thing in the year 1977. That was the year Prabhupada left this realm and went, re-entered the eternal Leela. We say Nitya Leela, Pravishta. So that whole year was, inconceivable for devotees. We kept hearing, Prabhupada is so ill, he's in Vrindavan, and then those leading devotees are going there, and all these different things. And I was in L.A. at the time, working on Back to Godhead. Satsvarup Maharaj, he was then the editor-in-chief. There's a whole history of the BTG, how in L.A. we had these editors, and I was working there, and it was getting a little bit new agey, the Back to Godhead magazine. And so the devotees were a little bit upset, what about this? I don't get into detail about it. But there was a committee went to Sri Prabhupada. His last Mayapur meeting was 77, early 77. And they said, Prabhupada, the Back to Godhead is going off a little bit, So it says, okay, well, Satsvarup Maharaj should take it over again as his editor-in-chief. So that definitely wasn't his zone, but he came in, and a little corner of Watseka Avenue. If you go up there, you see. If you go up to Rath Yatra, where the BBT house is. So that became his domain. When he would visit there, but he wasn't always there. He was flying. He was a GBC, and he would hear Prabhupada's, had this health crisis. He would fly off to India to see if he could be there with Prabhupada when he disappeared, and come back. So during that time, we were all, everyone was in great anxiety, because what's going to happen to the movement when Prabhupada leaves? It was inconceivable. The movement really revolved around Prabhupada. You would get letters who would change everything, and he was very much involved in managing, even though he kept wanting to retire and give it to GBC, but he never really could. So you read it in the Lilamrita, So he made the point that yes, Vapu and Vani. Does that ring a bell? Those two words, Vapu and Vani. Vapu means personal. So Vapu means body. So when Srila Prabhupada was with us, it was just a wonderful experience to be in his personal presence. There's no question about it. And all kinds of services you were able to do. I once made up a fruit plate for him to eat. That was my one personal service. And the prize was I got one of his orange peels that I didn't have much personal. I came a little too late for that, but still, just knowing who was on the planet, and you get a letter and everything. I got one letter. So anyway, so he made a point. It's in the 4th canto. And this was written, well before he was, 77. But he made that point. So Vapu and Vani. So Vapu is there when the spiritual master is there, and to serve him and to hear directly from him. There's no substitute for that. But even more important than associating personally like that is associating with the words. Vani means words. And Srila Prabhupada is very, very insistent that all of his lectures be, recorded, because he knew that that he would be present there in a very important way, the actual voice of the spiritual master. And there are hundreds of lectures that have been recorded. So that's there, but especially the books. He was so careful about the books and what he was saying, and this was his legacy. I am present in my books. Everything is there, he would say. So it's very nice to contemplate that. We can associate in the most important way with the pure devotee, Srila Prabhupada, by reading his books and hearing. That's why it's more to have a class or read together, and discuss. That's another wonderful way. So it says here that the brahmacharis, they sacrifice on the hearing process. Now that means that they don't, plug their ears up, but they hear only the pure sounds. And this verse I quoted, Tulyama Lavenapi, that one moment's association with the pure devotee. There's another verse I'll chant from the CC about that. But cannot be equated with going to heaven, getting birth in heaven, liberation from birth and death, It's much greater than value than that, because it can give you the key, the beginning of your sojourn in the pathway, Bhakti Marg, to get on the Bhakti Marg. So Bhagavat Sangi Sangasya, the association with an associate of Krishna. Nasvargam na apunar bhavam means not coming back. That's liberation. What to speak of? Going to heaven, even much better than that is liberation. It's much better than that. What to speak of some material benefit in this world? Money, you can't even compare it. So that verse appears twice in the Bhagavatam, and that means it's a very important verse. So anyway, this is the most important way of associating is hearing, and Prabhupada stresses in the beginning of the purport how you abstain from mundane sounds, which is very difficult in the era of the social media, and everyone's got a phone, So that's a real sacrifice. When I joined, no phones. No phone, no TV, no radio, no nothing. It was just, you'd walk in a temple and you'd hear a lecture of Prabhupada playing, and anywhere you went, it was going on. Or sometimes they play a bhajan, Prabhupada singing. That first kirtan, I was just listening to it today. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, and Prabhupada is playing the drum. There's a whole miracle about the drum. You may not know about that. So, first of all, the recording itself was a tremendous boon. Prabhupada has this little, storefront, nothing really. But, what was his name? The poet, Allen Ginsberg. Allen Ginsberg was world famous by then. He had written so many things. And he happened to be down there at that time, and he came to the storefront, and he had brought back the Hare Krishna mantra. He himself was chanting Hare Krishna. He didn't really know much about it, but, he was so famous, he did it became a thing, So anyway, he really liked Srila Prabhupada. He felt it was like getting reinforcements, because Prabhupada was chanting. So the fact that he liked it, therefore there's this one guy who was making records, and it was unusual records. It wasn't just singing and music, but it was also speaking. This one fellow was making these records. So he asked the devotees to ask Prabhupada if he'd like to make a record of that chanting. He said, yeah, for sure, So it was the next day they were going to go, And but they had no mridanga drum. Prabhupada was playing a half of a bongo drum. You've seen that out in the Tompkins Square Park. 3 hours he's beating that little drum and chanting. Where's the mridangas? And the devotees had no idea Prabhupada was an expert mridanga player. He'd learned from his father, his wonderful father. So he has to learn the mridanga. So who comes to the door? Some guy, some young kid, maybe he's a hippie, whatever, with a mridanga drum. And I think I know where he got it, because I lived there in near Tompkins Square Park 2 years later. I came in 1968. After the devotees still had a place there, I would see them dancing and chanting down St. Mark's Place. That was the main drag. But there was a store there that was run by the Scientologists who were still around, right? The Scientologists. So, and it was an Indian musical instrument store. You would see tambours in there, and veenas, sitars in the window, and tabla drums. I was familiar with that, tabla drums. Ravi Shankar, he had gotten famous. So I don't remember seeing a mridanga drum, but he probably got it from there. Where else is he going to get it? So anyway, whatever he got, he brought it to the temple. Prabhupada saw it, his eyes lit up. He said, oh, bring it here, bring it here. So, of course he did, and Prabhupada started playing it, and the devotees were just blown away. Super expert, So, Prabhupada was playing in the kirtan and everything, and then the evening ended, and the kid wanted his drum back, so okay. But they said, no, we're going to do a record tomorrow morning, if you could please bring it, But he didn't seem that enthusiastic. They said, he'll never come. But he came. He came and he gave him that drum. And if you listen to that record, that Prabhupada is playing such wonderful drumming. You've never heard before or since any like drumming that. Perfect timing and wonderful beat, and it adds so much to the kirtan. So and then he has this address which was edited. I think Hayagriva worked it up. It's so nice, So that record was distributed widely, and you know who got it? George Harrison. George Harrison, world famous, Beatles. And there's a story how he was on vacation with John, and they were like in a yacht that they owned or rented or something. They were just floating around the Greek islands, and they were playing that. You can imagine, and they were playing that record over and over and over again. And George especially became serious, He asked once if Prabhupada thought he should take initiation. He said, no. Yeah, he wanted him to, because he was so famous as George Harrison, he could do so much more for the movement, and he did, The recordings, and of course, the manner, the Bhaktivedanta manner he gave that. It's very wonderful. All right, so it all begins with the shrotra, with the hearing. So the sacrifice, the hearing, means that they'll just hear Krishna Katha. They'll just hear about Krishna. That's the best thing. And inspire of mental control, because the mind is really everything. Everything is in the mind, all the attractions and the doubts and the fears and everything are controlled in the mind. So the mind and the lust, as we learned in the last chapter, so that has to be controlled. And the only possible way to do that is to do those things which increase your attraction for Krishna. And that's beginning with hearing. And it's unlimited. I mean, the Bhagavatam itself, the very third verse of the Bhagavatam, the first two verses are very, very serious. What the book is about. Janman jasya yaton bayad tadatashtarte bhigya swarat. This is a description of Krishna. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, according to Prabhupada, he gave a lecture for 3 months on that one verse. He explained it in all different ways. There's so much in there. And the second verse is all about the Bhagavatam itself. Dharma projita kaita votra. In this book, we kick out all cheating religions. Well, okay, I guess we're going to learn what a real religion is, yes. And it was written by Vyasadeva in its maturity, and it's understood by those who are non-envious, so you have to cultivate that quality. And then, what do you need anything else for? If you just listen to this one book with rapt attention, this word shushushyo, this is a word in Sanskrit, and Prabhupada translated as with one of them is ardent hearing, submissive oral reception. Submissive oral reception means that your mind isn't. Well, that doesn't sound like anything. That doesn't sound logical. You're just receiving it. It's coming in. And if you do that, then Krishna will quickly be manifest in your heart. So what do you need any other books for? You get that and you go back to Godhead. That's the whole idea. But then the next verse is what I call a nectar verse. Means that it's the beauty of the language comes out. It's the poetry. It's in Sanskrit. So I'll give you a sample. This is how the verse goes. Nagamakal galitam palam sukamakadamita drabasam yutam. Bibata bhagavatam samalayam mohodahora sikabu vibhavuka. You could dance to that, right? So what it says is nigama is a word that means all the Shastra, all the Vedas, all the Puranas, everything. So this Bhagavatam is the Kalpataror. The Kalpataror is the Nigama. The Vedas are like a desire tree. All right, you don't want to renounce everything and go back to Godhead and all that. You can learn Ayurveda. You can learn to be a great doctor. You can become certified in California in Ayurveda, now Indian medicine, or you can learn Jyotirveda. That's astrology. It's a thing. It really works. There's a whole way in which the planets help. And Dhanurveda. That's also there in the Vedas. That's the art of fighting. That's all of this stuff is in the Vedas. So it's kind of a kalpavriksha tree of knowledge. Kalpavriksha tree means a desire tree. You can get whatever you want. And there's a whole bunch of the Vedas, which is called the Karmakanda section. These are the section that describe the sacrifices you need to perform, the demigods you need to worship in order to go to this planet, that planet, that planet. In other words, heaven. You want to go to heaven? Material heaven? And enjoy like anything for thousands of years, Yeah, that sounds good. Okay, then here's and you do that. And thousands and millions of people in India do that, But that's foolishness, according to Krishna Bhagavad Gita. Because even if you are able to go there, it's limited in time. Yes, you may be there for 1 million years, but then you have to come back down. Your punya is used up. It's like putting money in the bank, and then you can go on vacation. Oh, I got the credit card, we're good. you know. But then after a few weeks, you give him the credit card. Oh, sorry, Mr. Smith, you have another card? That one is, you know, doesn't. There's no money left in the bank. All right, I guess I have to go back to work. You know, got to return to Seattle from Hawaii, whatever. So anyway, but the Bhagavatam is not like that. This is the ripened fruit of the desire tree of the Vedas. That's what the first line means. The Gama Kalpatador Galitam Palam. And Prabhupada's in his immortal, you know, so much is in the word-by-word meanings. There's a lot sometimes. He said the word-by meaning for Galitam is, it's a fruit. It's the ripened fruit. And it's semi-soft and easily swallowable. That's in the word-by-word meanings. In other words, you can practically drink it, because that's what it says to do in the verse. Nagamakalapatador Galitam Palam Shukamukad means from the mouth of Shukadeva Goswami. It was spoken first. He learned it from his father, Vyasadeva, and then he spoke it to King Pariksit. And then Sutta Goswami was there. He heard it, memorized all 18,000 verses just by hearing them. You can imagine the clarity of mind. And then he repeated it to the sages at Naimisharanya, and that's what we hear in the Bhagavatam. The books we have. So, Shukamukad Amrita Dravasamyutam. So, it is said that, I've never tested this out, but that if a parrot peeks with his beak, he goes into a fruit, it becomes sweeter. Somehow, the fruit becomes sweeter. I don't know. So the Bhagavatam is even sweeter because Shukadeva Goswami, Shuka means parrot, he's spoken. So, Shukamukad Amrita, and it's pure nectar. Dravasamyutam, and it's flowing there. So then there's an injunction. Pibata Bhagavatam. This is imperative. Drink it through your ears. Drink the Bhagavatam by hearing it. Pibata Bhagavatam rasam aliyam. Rasa means juice, nectar of the Bhagavatam. And then the word aliyam is an interesting word. Aliyam usually means an abode, but it didn't make much sense here, because it says up to and including liberation. So I realized that this is an editing thing, but aliyam, if you put a hyphen after the A, it means up to and beyond. Just like Brahma Bhuvana Loka. All the way up to Brahma Loka is a place where you have to come back. You may go to Brahma Loka, but you still have to take birth because you're still in the material world. So aliyam, now it has the hyphen, and laya means to destruction. So destruction of your material life. Up to and including and beyond the liberation. Don't stop hearing the Bhagavatam. Liberation is not the goal. The goal is pure love for Krishna and reinstatement in our original Swarup. Aliyam muhuraho, again and again. This is why Prabhupada set up these Bhagavatam classes as a strict, part of the sadhana for everyone who's living in the temple, certainly. To attend the Bhagavatam classes, Muhuraho rasika, rasikas, become able to taste and relish the transcendental sound vibrations, beginning with the holy name, which is free forever. So that was all keyed off from this word shrotra. So the brahmacharis, they sacrifice this hearing process. They just hear pure sound vibrations in the fire of the controlled mind, right? Fire, hearing process, senses in the fire of mental control. And others, regulated households, sacrifice the object of the senses in the fire of the senses. So there's all kinds of rules for the householders. The idea is that you try to make your house as close to a temple as it can be. The pictures you have, the sounds you play, the food you eat. You have a room that's dedicated to worship, and oftentimes you see the Indians, there's little deities in there, and if they're serious, they strictly observe it. They go every day, and when they can, come to the temple. So this is all ways that we can perform sacrifice that's possible for us. That's the whole idea. All right, any questions on any of that? Let us go on then. Text 27. Sarvanindriya karmani prana karmani chapare atma sangyama yogagnau juvati jnana dipite. Others who are interested in achieving self-realization through control of the mind and senses offer the functions of all the senses and of the life breath as oblations into the fire of the controlled mind. This is the yoga process. Purport. The yoga system conceived by Patañjali is referred to herein. In the Yoga Sutra of Patañjali, the soul is called Pratyagatma and Paragatma, As long as the soul is attached to sense enjoyment, it is called paragatma. But as soon as the same soul becomes detached from such sense enjoyment, it is called pratyagatma. The soul is subjected to the functions of 10 kinds of air at work within the body. And this is perceived through the breathing system. That's the pranayama system. The Patañjali system of yoga instructs one on how to control the functions of the body's air in a technical manner, so that ultimately all the functions of the air within become favorable for purifying the soul of material attachment. According to this yoga system, pratyagatma is the ultimate goal. This pratyagatma is withdrawn from the activities in matter. The senses interact with the sense objects, like the ear for hearing, eyes for seeing, nose for smelling, tongue for tasting, hand for touching, and all of them are thus engaged in activities outside the self. They are called the functions of the prana vayu. The apana vayu goes downwards, vyana vayu acts to shrink and expand, samana vayu adjusts equilibrium, udana vayu goes upwards, and when one is enlightened, one engages all these in searching for self-realization. So isn't it nice to know that we don't have to worry about this? That's the whole point. When you come to, it's good to know it exists, but you don't have to get involved in it and try, oh yeah, I'm going to try this. My prana vayu is getting a little off. I have to, no. Everything is taken care of by chanting purely. The whole thing, this was Lord Chaitanya's great gift. Krishna's great gift as Lord Chaitanya. And that's why at the end of the book, what does Krishna say? Sarva dharman parityajya. All that I taught you about the different, forget it. You don't need about it. Sarva dharman parityajya means give it up. Sarva dharman parityajya mame kam sharanam bhaja. Here's this key phrase. Just surrender unto me. Means that you find out what I want you to do. And then you do it. And following, my dear representatives, the spiritual master. Because we all have, you're coming from different places and everything. But you have to have a guide. So, but the point is that it's possible, it's feasible, that you can make advancement in the best yoga, bhakti yoga, by undertaking the simple processes Prabhupada gave us. Okay, it's difficult to get up early in the morning, but if you try, you work into it, and you don't stay up late at night, then it becomes feasible. And those early morning hours are just so auspicious, So when you come to Mangalartik, it's a whole different world, And to chant in such a way, the thing is, the chanting, when you sit to chant, the state of your mind is the key thing. And if you've done things in the evening, you didn't get to bed early, you didn't get up early, or you did some nonsense, then that's going to make it more difficult to hear the Hare Krishna mantra. So but these things are feasible for us to do. Going to the Himalayas and practicing all these austerities, Arjun, that's the lesson here. You read the Bhagavad Gita, Arjun, what are we compared to Arjun? He's a personal associate of Krishna. And he says, Chantalam himana Krishna, pramati balabhadradham. We're on page 215. Good, okay. Chantalam himana Krishna pramati balabhadradham, tasyaham nigraham manye vayu iva suduskadam. Now I used to live in Miami for 6 years. And working on the Bhagavatam with my dear friend Gopi Puranadana Babu, who passed in 2011, and Ridhyananda Maharaj. And you always had to be aware, when July, August, September comes around, hurricane season. First thing you do when you get up, look at the weather report. Is there one coming in? Because there's no way of controlling it. You have to either batten down the hatches or you have to flee, basically. So that's what Arjun says. Trying to control the mind by the process you outlined, by the pranayama process, is like trying to control the wind, big wind, the hurricane. Tasyaham nigraham manye says, I think it's as hard as that. So I don't think I can do it. So Krishna says, yes, it's difficult, but with practice you can do it. So Arjuna is still not very hopeful. So he said, well, what happens if I fail? I'm going to give up my life as a householder, and I'm going to go to the Himalayas and sit alone and practice pranayama. And if I fail at that, then I've given up one side of my life, and I've also failed in the other. Like a riven cloud, I've had no standing, and I just blew the whole thing. Right? So then Krishna encourages him. Anyone know how? The last verse of the 6th chapter? Don't worry, he says. Because after all, Arjuna is a personal friend of Krishna. Yogi nama bisarveshan madgateen antaratmada shraddhabam bhajate yamam samayukta damamata. He says all the yogis, the best one who is worshipping me and always remembering me within his heart and worshiping me with great and transcendental faith. You see? So you can almost hear Arjuna from the page with a big sigh of relief. Because he's a personal friend of Krishna. He always thinks of Krishna, you know. So then in the 7th chapter, Krishna begins describing Bhakti Yoga seriously. And Prabhupada pointed out the middle 6 chapters, 7 through 12, are the essence of the Bhagavad Gita. And anyway, we'll get to that in pace. And you'll see things really take off in the 7th chapter. And Krishna gives us a feasible way to remember him right in the 7th chapter. You know, we will have to try to think of Krishna all the time, but it's hard for me. You know, well, look, do you drink any water? Okay, yeah, I am the taste in water. You know, do you ever see the sun and the moon? Of course, you know, I am the light of the sun and the moon. I am the fragrance of the earth. I am, all the things that we experience, we can understand. How did it come about? Krishna created the senses. He created the objects of the senses. He's there as our, we're part and parcel of him as souls. Therefore, we can sense these things. So in a very important way, he is all these things. And so we can remember him that way. This is the feasible way to begin your remembrance. But those who are chanting Hare Krishna, it's not that we disregard that, but that we want to remember Krishna in all of his original, beautiful, attractive form, all the qualities. And we've been given that. Prabhupada gave us the Bhagavad Gita, he gave us the Bhagavatam, the CC, which is super, advanced, and he gave us the Nectar of Devotion, which is Rupa Goswami's instruction of how to practice bhakti and what the result of bhakti is. It's so important. Well, the 64 qualities of Krishna are there. How are you going to get attracted to someone? Well, you got to know what they do, what they look like, what their qualities are. There it is. And how he's manifested each quality. Each one is explained. It's a real treasure. And the Sanskrit. Oh my God! I remember there's one verse because Bhanu Swami has actually published the book, with the Sanskrit, but he didn't give word by word meanings. But there was one verse, and I noticed a mistake in the verse, and it's a beautiful verse describing parental love of God, Mother Yashoda. So Krishna is crawling toward Mother Yashoda, and he's got a butterball in his hand, and he's smiling at her, and she's smiling at him, and so here's the verse. I'll share it with you. You listen to the incredible sound of it. Kwanata kanika kinkani kalapam smitamukamundra nasikagramuktam kadadata navanita pindamangretanayamaveshan Nanda Patni. So Nanda Patni is the name for Yashoda. Nanda is Nanda Maharaj, Patni means wife. It's wife of Nanda. Nananda, I didn't know that word before I read this verse, but it's like related to Nanda and Ananda and all these things. And so it means delighted Mother Yashoda. How is she delighted? By seeing Krishna. What is he doing? He's a little baby. He's got just a few little things he's wearing. He's got a string of bells around his waist that I think Mother Yashoda can hear where he is, so he's crawling here and there. He's got a little pearl, beautiful Bulgarian pearl affixed to his nose. And he's got a butterball in his hand. I think there must be 100 million households in India where you have this picture, a statue of Krishna carrying like this. So Kwanata Kanaka Kinkani Kalapam, you can just hear the alliteration, this is Kwanata Kanaka. So Kanaka means golden, and Kinkani means waist bells. And Kwanata is the sound, they're sounding very sweetly as he's crawling toward her. Kwanata Kanaka Kinkani Kalapam, this series of bells around his waist. Kwanata Kanaka Kinkanipana Smita Mukam. He's smiling at his mother, Smita Mukam. Ujjala Nasikagramuktam. Ujjala means a shining pearl, a very effulgent pearl is affixed to his nose. And that's what I noticed had been mistranslated. The word mukta sounds very much like liberation, but it had nothing to do with it. It means also pearl, right? So the original translator missed that. I corrected it. And then Kada in his hand, another K, it's a lot. Kada Dvita, in his hand he's holding nabanita, fresh butter, pindam, a ball of fresh butter. He's got a fresh butter ball in his hand. So he's got the bells, he's got the, this is all he's got, these three things. He's not wearing any other clothes. Kadajata nabanita pindam, agre taniyam abe. Agre means he's coming before her. Taniyam is the son, her son, Krishna. Taniyam aveksha, she sees him, and she's delighted, she's overwhelmed with bliss. Nananda patni. So that's one verse. Rupa Goswami has written whole works, Stavamala, that I can share with you. One of these days. Well, you guys can leave him. But I periodically do a little poetry section in this class. And so if you get the class, you get it. Anyway, so it's not impossible to be able to get to learn how to chant these verses. I trained I was there with the Sanskrit scholars, and I had a background of drumming. My father was a drummer, so I had a rhythm sense, But the Sanskrit is just exquisite, and it should be, because it's describing the most beautiful, all attractive person, So that's our means. So we just had a wonderful class and a purport in the morning class, and Prahlad he's telling his teachers that they're asking him, how did you learn about bhakti, I mean, you were born here and we were training you. Where did all this come from? So he was saying, my mind is just automatically attracted to Krishna, just like a magnet to iron, And in the purport, Prabhupada talks about how bhakti means to systematically diminish our attraction for Maya things, for material things, and simultaneously increase our attraction for Krishna, chiefly through chanting the holy name with great attention and without offense. But then everything expands from that. And the whole Bhagavatam expands from that. And there's so many beautiful prayers, the Gopis' songs and Akrura's prayers, that you can learn how to chant. And they're just, it can keep you very enlivened, With Bhishma Dev, the Chubabana Kamanang Tama Lavarnang Dabakata Goda Varambadang Dadani. I think I chanted this one the other day. He's meditating, he's on the bed of arrows, he's got this blessing from his father, he doesn't have to die until he wants to. So he spent all his time now instructing Yudhishthira, who was crestfallen. He did all his death just so I can have this kingdom. He was very depressed. So he encouraged him and advised him, Krishna standing right there. So then when that was done, the time came, and then before he passes, he's just looking at Krishna standing over him, and he's chanting these beautiful prayers to Krishna. Let my attraction be drawn to Krishna, not be... And he's one of the Mahajans. He's one of the 12 authorities, for devotional service. So the Bhagavatam is filled with these things, wonderful philosophy and wonderful descriptions of Krishna's pastimes and the qualities and Vrindavan and all these different things. So we should take advantage of this gift. I'm sorry, I took the whole time. I didn't leave time for your questions. But anyway, I don't think I gave one poem yet. I should give one at least, because this is your last day, right? Oh my God. All right, so so this is one of my Bhadri Narayan Maharaj's all-time favorite. So it's a verse spoken by Haridas Thakur about the holy name. What could be more enlivening than that? Anyway, I won't give it's not time to go, but the verse is this way. It's an incredible verse. Ang hak sang hatatakilang sakadadiha deva sakalalokasya tadaniti batamana jaladin jayachitagan mangalang hare nama. And then he explained it. And from the explanation, I made this little poem. When the moon is invisible, now you have to go back, no light, no artificial lighting or anything. When the sun goes down and there's no moon, because it's new moon, it gets very, very dark. When the moon is invisible, withered to nil, and the sun is long gone from the sky, then an ocean of darkness envelops this world, and the timorous fear they might die. But that thick pall of gloom is at once swept away when the first signs of sunrise appear, and the dawning of day gives assurance to all that in truth there is nothing to fear. In a similar way, when illusion holds sway, and his soul has forgotten his Lord, then the darkness of ignorance covers his heart. Sin and suffering are his reward. But as soon as he says Krishna's name even once, in a manner that doesn't offend, then his ignorance flees like the darkness at dawn, and his sin and his suffering end. So there's nothing to fear, for the sun of the name has appeared with his powers divine. In your heart may that sun, benedictive for all, become fixed and eternally shine. Hare Krishna. It's all in my poetry file. Did you send me an email? Yeah, okay. Just send me an email, I'll send you my poetry. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you for listening. And you online too. Hare Krishna. All right, so we'll resume tomorrow with text 28.